Are you
Okay, then you you might be echoing a little bit. So if you
okay?
just turn your microphone off when you're not talking, which again is just click the button, that'll help cut down on it a little bit. All right, so my name is Tom Pantasis. I am an instructional designer here with the Office of Distance Education, and today we're going to talk a little bit about virtual reality. Over the next 27 minutes or so, we are going to make sure we're all starting with the same definitions. There's a lot of things that get called virtual reality that aren't necessarily virtual reality. I'm going to talk specifically about some of the tools and features that we have available for you to try out here at Westchester. And then I'm going to give you a little demo of what it looks like on the inside of the system I'm using right now. And then we can talk a little bit about next steps. So that's where we're going. So let's start with that definition. Virtual reality, simply defined, is a simulated experience that is perceived as real by the user. So it's fake, but you think it's real. It's kind of the really simple way to say that. Now, there's a scale of virtual reality that I found that I think is pretty good here, which you see on the screen. And it goes from what is actually our real environment all the way to completely virtual environments. So if we take a look here, augmented reality is the overlaying of digital information onto the physical world, but that digital information is overlaid in such a way that it is not responsive to natural laws like lighting and gravity and depth perception, things like that. So some examples, Pokemon Go and a tool called Erasma, which we'll look at in a little bit. If we continue along our little spectrum from left to right, there's augmented virtuality. And this is where digital information is overlaid onto the physical world, but it is much more responsive to natural laws. So if I change, if I step back from something, it gets smaller. If I step towards it, it gets bigger. The light in the room is casting some shadow, things like that when I talk about natural laws. Um, some examples of that are the HoloLens. And this idea I've also kind of heard called mixed reality. And finally, as we continue along the spectrum, we get to what become more and more complete virtual environments that you're inside something that's entirely virtual. Um, and even within that scale, there's also how responsive and how real it feels to the user. That is also something that is along a scale. So let's look at these a little bit more specifically. But before I do that, I'm curious, and you can either just tell us on the microphone or use the chat feature. Have any of you on this webinar actually tried virtual reality in one of its forms? So, for example, Google Cardboard, HTC Vive, Facebook's Oculus, PlayStation View, um, Pokemon Go, Erasma, anything else I'm not thinking of? Michelle's done Pokemon Go, okay, and I saw Esther did get to try the headset I have on at the conference. Tim, you haven't. Timothy has done anything. Um, I definitely encourage you to get to find an opportunity to try some of this out. Um, the things you read or look at on the internet do not do it justice. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit more about augmented reality. Um, this is probably the easiest and cheapest option that you could implement right now in your classrooms. All that students really need is a smart device, like an iPhone or an iPad that has a camera. And what you do is you get an app like Erasma onto your device and you turn it on and you aim the camera at something that acts as a code. It could be a QR code, it could be an AR code, it could just be a picture, like the picture of the building that you see in the background here. And when the system recognizes that as something as a trigger, it starts to display virtual information. In this case, on the screen, you see a dinosaur appears. Um, you could have a video appear. You could have text appear. So this is something you could implement in the physical classroom. I've seen it used for scavenger hunts. I've seen it used as like a station activity, and it's a very interesting and engaging way to display some different information. Pokemon Go falls into this category as well, but instead of using a visual trigger, they use geographic data to trigger the little Pokemon to appear. All right, let's continue. Okay, so imagine for a moment that you're having a plumbing problem in your house. And it's a little ways in the future, and you have a set of glasses, perhaps that look like this one on the screen, and you put it on and you use that set of glasses to call your plumber on Skype. And your plumber, in the comfort of his living room or her living room, pulls up your Skype call on their iPad, and after hearing you explain briefly what the problem is, says, all right, let's go take a look at it. So you walk over underneath your sink and you look with these glasses on, and the plumber sees what's going on, and the plumber draws on the iPad what you need to fix, what you need to tighten, and it displays for you through those glasses in front. So you can tighten up the pipe that you need, and the plumber never has to come to your house. Problem solved. That is a variation of a story that Microsoft has put out in their promotional materials for this device that you see on the screen, which is called a Hololens, which is a device that does augmented virtuality. That's pretty cool if you think about it, that you can demonstrate for someone some skill over distance. So when I saw that and thinking about education, nursing, even some educational techniques, the sports medicine folks could have that ability to connect with people over distance and show or demonstrate those skills without having to necessarily physically be present in that space. Now, one of the holdups of being able to implement this more quickly is that HoloLens is a $3,000 piece of equipment. But we do have one here at Westchester through the Demonstration and Application Center, and you can see it in use here. There's 2 pictures from our recent conference. Some experts in this field actually think that this idea of mixed reality, the overlaying of digital information into the physical space, is where things are headed. With the HoloLens, you could actually have your Outlook pop up anywhere that you sit down, and the document that you were working on, and you can manipulate them virtually, kind of like you see me doing in the upper right with my fingers. You use finger gestures with the HoloLens. You don't need controllers like I have right here. So definitely something to think about moving forward if you teach skill-based classes. Now, this is another one that probably is a little easier to implement right now, and that's 360-degree VR video. This is what a lot of people right now often call virtual reality, even though it's kind of virtual reality. 360-degree videos are videos shot with a special camera that allow you to look around anywhere in the scene as the video is playing forward in time. They're a great way to put students into locations they might not otherwise be able to visit. Google has done a lot of virtual field trips using this technology. So if you teach some of those disciplines where you want to take people to some place, this might be a way in which you can do that. The other nice thing about these 360 videos is that a lot of them are available on YouTube and can be watched right now without all this equipment that I'm about to talk about. You can go on your computer right now and look for a 360-degree video and watch it and be able to look around in different perspectives using the mouse. So that's potentially something that you could implement into your class or into your instruction pretty easily if you can find the right 360 video. Now, if you want to kick it up a level, you can do the viewers like you see on the screen. And in order to do that, you need a virtual reality compatible smartphone, and not all of them are compatible. The smartphone has the right graphics processing and sensors that track your head movements. You need some sort of viewer, and I have 2 on the left side there in the picture that just popped up. The one on the left is a Google Cardboard. Those are usually a couple dollars or free, depending on where you find them. And they can range in price all the way up to $80 to $100 or so. We have another nicer one, which is the picture on the right there of the, it's a Firefly headset. But the Firefly one is open. You put the cell phone in that flat space that's on the table, and then you fold it up. And the video You watch it using a special app, either YouTube or another app called Verse. And the app will put the video into that fisheye format, which is in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, and that is what allows the viewer to make it feel like they're there and able to look around. We here in the Office of Distance Education have the ability to make 360 videos for you. There's 2 screenshots of 2 that we've done, just kind of experimenting a little bit. And I can make those 360 videos available to you if you're interested in checking them out. They're not amazing by any means, but it gives you a sense pretty quickly of how it works to look around using the little arrow box that you see in the upper left of those 2 screenshots. And then at the bottom is a picture of the 360 camera that we have. We can capture about 20 minutes worth of video footage. The audio is okay. We're working on improving that. So if you have some situations or scenes, for example, I had a nutrition faculty member that wanted to take this into a kitchen, an industrial kitchen, to kind of give students a tour without necessarily needing to bring students to that kitchen. That's a perfect example of how we might be able to apply this. So if there's some locations or some filming that you might be interested in, just let me know. All right, so our last set of equipment is the equipment that gives you a fully immersive environment. And what I have on my head right now is the HTC Vive. So this is a picture of some of the equipment. You can see that I have the controllers in my hand. The black boxes are the 2 sensors that you need to kind of set up the space to move around in. I also have headphones in, and I need a really decently powerful computer in order to run this particular type of a virtual environment. And now, educationally, the focus that I've seen so far is on simulating experiences that are super costly or unsafe to do in person. So some examples include science experiments. There's a company called Labster that's actually developing virtual science lab equipment that can be really expensive so that students could go in and practice on that equipment virtually without having to spend the large sums on the equipment itself. There are also some simulations going on that are in development to give students experiences of what it's like to teach in a classroom, what it's like to be inside of the human body, to take the human body apart, some anatomy things. And I'll show you some other tidbits in a couple minutes here. This is an example of the Vive in action at the conference. It is possible for more than one user who's logged in using one of these virtual reality systems to connect with each other virtually, and I see great promise for that moving forward. So you could be in your office connected virtually with students who are all over the world, and you're all in the same virtual space communicating with each other and interacting. It's like Second Life on steroids, if any of you are familiar with Second Life, which was a computer-based program that did something similar. I talked about the Vive headset a little bit. There's some other providers out there, the Rift and the PlayStation VR. And in addition, you do need a computer that's powerful enough to handle the graphics and the processing. Right now, well, actually, this was about 6 months ago, there was a statistic that said there's only about 1% of the computers in the world that are capable of handling that at that time. That I'm sure that number has improved. And even the folks that are developing this software, they have said that they are trying to make it so that it runs on, doesn't need quite as much computing power to run correctly. There's leaps and bounds are being made daily in this arena. So I think we'll see them continuing to proliferate over the next few years. So let me stop for a moment and just ask you to respond to this question. Which of the 4 options that I've talked about seems most promising to you right now, or potentially in the short term, in the near future? You can just turn your microphone on and tell us what you think, or you can throw it in the chat. I'm fine with either way. For those of you that jumped in, I'm not sure if somebody jumped in after I'd started. If you want to turn your microphone on, it's up at the top. You have to click the little icon of the microphone, and it will go green, and that'll allow you to speak if you have a microphone connected to your computer. So what do we think? Which of these so far do you think has some promise? All right, let me see here. Trying to read these. Let me pop my headset off for a second and read them a little clearer. Do both people have to have the lens? No, both people do not need to have the lens. It definitely would be helpful with practicum. 360 tour, I think that would be really awesome. AR, VR, AR. Yeah, I'm really interested in trying to find some folks who are interested in 360 videos. Yes, Beatrice, it can only record 20 minutes at a time. Um, I can do multiple 20-minute videos, but I can't go any longer than that. And it's a function of the storage on the camera itself. There are cameras out there that are more expensive than the one we got. They range in price from about 300 up to 25,000. We're not buying a $25,000 camera. The bigger the cameras, the easier it is to uh, record longer video. Michael or Michelle, you raised your hand. Oh, accidentally. Okay, got it. I'll clear that up. All right. So I'm going to go ahead at this point and take you inside of the virtual reality system so you can see it. It's not a perfect inside, but it will give you a taste. If somebody could turn their microphone on just so that they can kind of talk to me and tell me what they're seeing. Because I have to be inside, I cannot I don't necessarily know what you're seeing. So um, if you're not seeing something that looks all that exciting, if someone could let me know, I would really appreciate that. So we're going to go inside the first one, the one that I like to demonstrate. It's called Tilt Brush. And I'm looking around right now and, oh, hey, here it is. And I'm going to skip our painting. So I think you can see the remotes, which are the two
Yeah,
remotes in the hand. I hope so.
I
Let me
see
peek
this.
real quick and make sure. Yep. All right, good. Okay. So I'm gonna pick a color. We'll pick something nice and bright, and we'll just do duct tape first, and I can draw virtually. But this is the cool part.
Wow.
I can put depth to it, and I can
What?
go around myself, and then I can look around and see it, and I can change my perspective. So let's make some fire.
Oh my gosh,
I
that's
can make some
awesome.
fire here. So at the conference the other day, I showed this
Mhm.
to, whoopsies, I hit a menu button. There we go. I showed this to um, Constance Case, who is does costume design, and I showed her this dress mannequin, and she thought this
Mhm.
was the best thing ever because her students now can come in and do design without necessarily needing
That's
to use
awesome.
resources. So I can start making something. Um, Let me see here. I think I saved. Oh, no, no, no. I'm trying to do things too fast here. There we go. Here we go. Here's what she did the other day.
Oh,
So you can
Oh
see
wow.
she was
lovely.
working on a dress design, and I can actually, if I want to, stand up. I'm gonna move really carefully and
Oh
I
my
can look
gosh.
around a little
Isn't
bit
that cool?
and see what's going
Mhm.
on. It's Yeah, and it doesn't even. You're just seeing the 2D version. The 3D version, much cooler.
Huh.
That's why I definitely encourage you to check that out when you get a chance. So I'm going to exit that one, and I'm going to go back to my menu screen, and I'm going to select one called Engage. Um, and you may have seen the one that I'm going to go into if you've at all explored some of the promo materials that are out there. But there's an activity in here that I think is geared more for students, but I don't know if you can tell. It looks like I'm in
Mhm.
space right now, and there's a display screen there. I don't know why this one decides to appear behind me, but it's just the way it goes. This activity had students come up to some cannons and demo lesson. It's ballistic trajectory. I'm going to start the demo. We do have to wait patiently. These do take a few minutes to load, which is always a little, it's like, okay, I'm really excited. And then you're just sitting here waiting. So this Canon one, there's a dry erase board, digital. And
Wow.
all right, so here I am. I am on the platform. Whoop, still loading. I think I have to turn this way. There we go. Here we go. Now I'm moving, right?
Yep.
You guys don't hear the sound, which is too bad. But someone's talking to me at the moment.
We can hear a little bit.
Okay. So here I have a setup for trajectory to fire a cannonball with velocity, and I can actually work the problem if I wanted to. Once I have my number, I plug it in here.
Oh, cool.
And I hit enter, and it will fire the cannon. I'm probably going to miss. Yeah, definitely missing. So you get an opportunity to kind of practice that experience in the virtual environment. Now, that's a fairly basic concept, but certainly could come up with more challenging ones if necessary. The other thing I talked about a little bit was about going to places. So I'm going to load one called Destinations right now. And the nice thing about a virtual digital environment is you can go anywhere you can create. It's not necessarily anywhere that exists. So if it's an English story that's not made up, but you want to take them to that location, in theory, you could do that if you can get someone to create it for you. So I'm going to do some destinations, and we're going to check out, let's go to Mars. So I'm going to Mars.
Wow.
So I'm now on Mars. And hey, Rover, I didn't realize it was that big. I mean, this is huge. And let me jump around. I'll turn around here. Look how
Cool.
big that is.
Wow.
So, and I can move around. And in the digital space, you can create these little like informational cards or videos. I've seen one that is a World War I museum, and they have these different videos, and it's like a virtual museum, so you can walk around and play videos and read different things and experience these models in 3D.
There are two things.
And this is still just scratching the surface. Like this isn't that
There are
exciting.
two things on there. There are two
Go
things
ahead,
on there.
Esther.
There's a round one at the back and a square one in the front. What's going on? Should you X out?
Right here?
You know,
Are you talking about? Oh, I see what you're talking about on the screen.
there we go. Yes.
There we
There
go.
we go.
Is that a little better?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. And that, I appreciate Esther you telling me that, because that will happen sometimes with these programs. They'll open their own viewing window and then it gets on top of the one I was using. So that's the Mars rover, and we're on Mars right now. And again, here's one of those informational cards that are sitting there. And I can walk around a little bit and then look back. There it is. There's lots of different destinations that are, not that, destinations that are out there. There's an English church. There's the Tower Bridge. There was one that I saw in a different program that was an Alcatraz cell, and it was tiny. I was surprised at how tiny it was. So I would definitely encourage you to um, check it out in person if you get a chance. We will have some different opportunities in the near future with the different devices. I'm going to go to one more here before I wrap it up that puts you inside the Mercury space capsule, and you actually go through a simulated version of the flight that actually occurred, if it loads correctly, and I hope it does. Uh, I was surprised at how tiny the capsule feels, which in hindsight makes sense, but it's pretty cool to be in this environment and feeling like you're actually there. Um, we just use these controllers right now, but in the future, they're already working on gloves that you can put on that have little motors in them that will push back against your fingers when you go to grab something in the
Oh
virtual
my
environment, so
gosh.
it actually
That's
feels like
crazy.
you're grabbing it. If any of you have an iPhone 7, the button in an iPhone 7 is actually configured that way. It's not actually a button. It has what's called a haptic engine underneath it that kind of pushes back with some pressure when you push to make it feel like you clicked the
Wow.
button. This doesn't seem to be loading, so I'm going to exit out of that. Oh, because there was a launch screen waiting for me. Let's try that. See if that helps. There we go.
Wow.
So here's my space capsule and my
Fun.
space gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you see
That's
that?
cool.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to start and go inside the capsule. All right.
Having trouble again?
Having trouble again. I know it's all left, not that exciting. There we go. All right, can you see my space
Yep.
capsule?
My space capsule?
So there's like a pre-launch checklist I have to go through, turning certain switches and knobs and pulling and pushing things and flipping switches. I'm just flipping things randomly so you can see. So it's pretty cool. Would be a great way to teach about this particular concept. So I'm coming out and returning to my desktop and stopping share and hiding this. So, yeah, I'm sorry about the background echo there.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the background echo.
All right. So, just to wrap things up, and I know I'm over by a second, the key thing is to look for those opportunities that are going to fit within your particular discipline. And I certainly can help you talk about that. What would be the best use of a particular tool? The big thing with this is getting students to experience it in a way that they haven't been able to before, or to give them the ability to practice skills that aren't easy to practice. I see those are two big things moving forward in the short term. In the long term, that ability to connect with people virtually over distance. You might be teaching virtually in 15 years where you log into this set and everyone else is logged in and you're in a virtual classroom, and you're giving your virtual presentation and everyone's seeing it. So I'll certainly entertain questions at this point, and I appreciate you taking some time to be here. We have a Vive if you want to come to the office and check it out. We have a 360 camera if you want to use it or experiment with it. Just let me know. Questions? I'm going to turn off the recording at this point.